My dear chosen one, there is a pain that you couldn't explain, even when you tried to move on. A presence that doesn't dissolve with time, nor with silence. It wasn't just someone who passed through your life. It was someone whose soul recognized yours even before knowing their name. And no matter how the paths have diverged, something within you still feels that they are in danger. Not a physical danger, but a spiritual one. As if they were trapped in a reality that consumes them from the inside without them realizing. And amidst all of this, there is a strange feeling, as if part of you is still connected to them by an invisible thread that refuses to break. Maybe you never understood why. Even after everything, your spirit still stirs when you think of them. But what few know is that certain souls, before incarnating, make deep agreements, not only of love, but of rescue. And in a moment of spiritual lucidity, they entrusted you with something sacred, a kind of vibrational key that could be used to help them, in case one day they forgot who they truly are. Now, while they repeat patterns that keep them trapped in an emotional and energetic cycle that you recognize from afar, the memory of this agreement begins to awaken in you. And with it comes the responsibility to remember what your soul promised to carry. This is not just a story of interrupted spiritual romance. It's a deep call for you to awaken the code that was sealed within you long before all of this began. You don't need to search for them, force them, or interfere. But you need to remember who you are, so that the frequency they once entrusted to you can be radiated once again. If this message is already touching something inside you, write in the comments, "I carry the key," because perhaps now is the moment when everything begins to align, not for the meeting, but for the remembrance. I want to ask you to take action in this moment and leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any divine revelation. Long before you understood what this type of connection meant, you already felt that there was something different about it. It wasn't just an intense feeling. It was as if they awakened parts of you that had been dormant for lifetimes. Even without knowing the name for it, your body reacted, your soul trembled, and the world around you seemed to silence every time your eyes met. There was something there that transcended logic, time, and even understanding. But over time, this bond became confusing and started to hurt. What you may never have realized is that some connections don't come to last in the physical realm, but to activate forgotten spiritual memories. You didn't meet by chance, and they didn't enter your life by accident. There is a greater intelligence behind this encounter, an intelligence that knew they could get lost. That's why something was left with you. Not something visible or material, but a vibrational fragment capable of functioning as a beacon, in case they forgot where they came from. And they forgot. Today, they are caught up in realities that feed off their forgetting, relationships that drain them, repeating patterns, voices that distort their identity. But you feel it. Even from a distance, you know they're not well. Sometimes you feel anguishes that aren't yours, nightmares that don't make sense, thoughts that invade even when you swear you've already gotten over it. What you're experiencing is the reflection of the spiritual place where they are now. This is called karmic fire. It's not punishment nor retribution, but an energetic field where their soul remains trapped by decisions that repeat, life after life. And what sustains this cycle are illusions, broken promises, unhealed traumas, and the lack of awareness of what true love really is. They can't see clearly, because everything around them convinces them this is the only path possible. But their soul feels it, and the vibrational presence you carry begins to disturb this system. What's most impressive is that the prison keeping them blind wasn't built solely by past pains, but by spiritual interferences that work to prevent this reconnection in frequency. Every time you try to reconnect, something happens. A crisis, an abrupt cut, a distortion. Because this code you carry threatens the entire cycle they are chained to, and the system knows this. That's why it tries to make you forget too, but nothing is by chance. If you've been separated from them, it's because you weren't yet ready to sustain this code in an integral way. There were still open wounds in you, emotional confusions, needs that could distort the true purpose of the connection. The universe is not delaying anything. It's preparing you. Because if this code is activated before the time, it burns. But if activated with consciousness, it liberates. That's why true rescue doesn't happen with effort, demand, or physical presence. It begins when you choose to remember. When, even without answers, you decide to return to yourself and sustain the original frequency that your soul carries. Not to force anyone's return, but to keep alive the only thing that can break the chains surrounding them: the truth. And when this truth vibrates, something in them begins to move. You've tried to forget. You've forced yourself to move on, to bury everything you felt, to convince yourself it was just a phase, an illusion of your overly sensitive mind. And for some time, maybe it worked. But deep inside, where time doesn't rule, and where the soul keeps what the ego tries to deny, something continued to pulse. It wasn't common longing. It was as if a silent call kept vibrating within the walls of your spirit, as if, somewhere, a part of them still knew who you were, and was asking for help without knowing how. This call isn't heard by the ears, but by the energy that invades you in moments when you are alone and vulnerable. Many times you felt anger. You felt betrayed, forgotten, discarded. And at other moments, you were overwhelmed by such great compassion. You could hardly understand how you still felt something so deep for someone who seems to have already erased you. This emotional contrast is not weakness. It's evidence that this connection touches dimensions the mind can't reach. You're not stuck in an unresolved story. You're vibrating within a spiritual field that was interrupted by forces you can't always see. There's a battle between your truth and the illusion built around it. And within this battle, you need to learn not to fight with the weapons of emotion, but with the stability of consciousness. She didn't betray you because she wanted to destroy you. She didn't cut you off because she hated you. Many times, she acted driven by programming she didn't even realize was there. Patterns of emotional self-defense, abandonment traumas, unconscious fears of her own love. The problem is that within the fire she finds herself in, everything that is true seems dangerous. The light feels invasive. Affection feels like a threat. And because of that, the more you radiated truth, the more she pulled away. This doesn't diminish the value of what you shared, but it needs to be understood with maturity so that you don't confuse personal pain with spiritual mission. While you were awakening to the reality of your journey, she remained asleep in a cycle that offered comfort to her ego, but no nourishment to her soul. Superficial relationships, external validations, environments that reinforce the lie that she is in control. And even though, in the eyes of the world, she may seem fine, you feel that her soul is imploding from within. The spark that once shone in her eyes is now just a reflection. Her presence is no longer whole, and even without her understanding why, your frequency continues to be a threat to all of this, because you are literally the reminder of what is real. And the truth disturbs where illusion reigns. The separation between you was painful, but spiritually, it was an act of protection, because if you had stayed, you would have burned along with her. There wasn't enough foundation in you to sustain what she needed, and what this connection requires. That's why life moved you apart, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Every pain you faced alone was actually a purification process for your own soul, and perhaps, unknowingly, you were being refined for the exact moment when this dormant code within you would begin to vibrate in full force. Not to save her with your hands, but to activate her with frequency. The forces that keep her where she is have no interest in your awakening. They know that if you remember who you are, the prison she is in begins to crack. These forces are not characters from spiritual tales. They manifest in distractions, doubts, fears, toxic relationships, subtle addictions, attacks on your self-esteem and mission. They try to make you give up on her. But more so, they try to make you give up on yourself, because they know that if you disconnect from your truth, the code she entrusted to you sleeps forever. But now, something inside you has changed. The time for silence is running out. The soul begins to remember what wasn't said, but was recorded in places that no pain could erase. You are no longer the same version that suffered. You are no longer the person who just wanted to love. You have become someone capable of sustaining the vibration that transforms. And that is exactly why everything is beginning to move again. Not because you need to do something, but because you are finally ready to be who you are, with or without her by your side. The signs have started to come more intensely. Those strange dreams that seemed just confusing now make more sense. Fragments of conversations that never happened in this life, but that you feel as memories. Feelings of déjà vu, thoughts that come from nowhere, emotional memories that have no clear origin. None of this is delusion. These are the records of your soul trying to reactivate what was once sealed between you two. Because even before there were names, faces, or stories, there was a mission, and it is approaching the moment when it needs to be completed, even if not in the way you imagined. This code you carry is not a mystical symbol. It is a vibrational field, a sacred memory that only activates when you align with your most authentic essence. It's not something you give to her with words or gestures. It's something that starts radiating from you when you choose to live with truth, even in silence. When your vibration reaches coherence between what you feel, think, and manifest, the code begins to pulse. And even if she doesn't consciously understand what is happening, her soul begins to perceive cracks in the walls of the prison she lives in. The truth doesn't need to be explained. It is felt. And that's what your field begins to do for her. What you feel for her was never attachment, although at times it may have seemed like it. What you feel is spiritual resonance. It's not about wanting someone back. It's about recognizing that there is a part of you that still vibrates, like a beacon in the midst of her fog. The problem is that if you let yourself be dominated by need, expectation, or desire for control, this frequency distorts, and the code fades. The fire she lives in feeds exactly on this: your uncertainties, your anxiety, your rush, because the system that holds her feeds on instability. And your mission now is to become stable enough to disturb everything that still imprisons her consciousness. That's why the true rescue doesn't look like in the movies. It's not made of reunions full of beautiful words or romantic endings. The true rescue happens in silence. It happens when you keep walking, even while feeling. When you choose to be light, even in the dark. When you stop chasing and start sustaining a frequency that no system can imitate. This is the vibration that breaks unconscious contracts, deprograms beliefs, and dissipates the lies that made her forget who she is. And it's not easy, because everything around you will try to pull you back into the pain, into the desire, into the fear of losing. But it's precisely when you choose to remain firm in your essence, even with your heart trembling, that something changes. When you stop trying to understand everything and start just trusting in what silently vibrates within you. Because the truth is that your presence, even invisible, begins to destabilize the pattern she has gotten used to. The people around her begin to annoy her. The environments that once seemed safe become suffocating. The choices that once seemed logical lose their meaning. And without realizing it, she starts seeking something. Without knowing, she is seeking you. Or better, she is seeking what you represent within her. The divine irony is that the code that can liberate her only activates when you choose to be free. It's not when you insist, beg, or wait. It's when you live, when you build, when you love your own journey enough not to depend on her presence to feel whole. Because this code was not meant to work in pain. It is unlocked in the state of truth. It's as if her soul entrusted you with a reminder of what she herself would forget. And now, by seeing you live this truth, even from a distance, something inside her begins to recognize the way back. And maybe, at the most unexpected moment, she will feel a rupture, an inexplicable discomfort, a sudden pain that doesn't align with what she's living, because her soul began to awaken. And even though the mind resists, even though the fears scream, even though she tries to run away again, the code has already been touched. And what is activated by truth can no longer be completely erased. From here on, there is no going back to the previous state. Her vibration starts to shift, and the fire that once consumed her starts, little by little, to transform. What's most remarkable is that this transformation doesn't require any direct action from you regarding her. There's no need for messages, reunions, or attempts at explanations. The soul operates on levels that bypass the rationale. When you begin to live your truth with integrity, everything in your energetic field organizes itself around this vibration. And this organization becomes a mirror that breaks the distortions in other fields. Connected to you, her soul, even still wrapped in emotional fog, recognizes this change. Not by the mind, but by the dissonance it creates in the illusory structures that keep her trapped. And that's when the chaos begins. Because when the soul starts to remember, the ego goes into panic. True love was never about saving someone. It has always been about remembering who you are. And by doing so, you naturally become a point of reference for those who've strayed. Your path isn't about waiting for her return. It's about sustaining what you've discovered, with firmness and humility. Because even if she never returns, even if her choices lead her down far-off paths, the vibration you anchored continues to resonate. It continues to touch. It continues to illuminate spaces you can't even see. And this is the great spiritual truth that the world has yet to understand. Transformation happens in the invisible, and the invisible shapes everything visible. That's why don't confuse physical presence with vibrational mission. Many think they are destined to live with their twin flames, when, in fact, they were called to remind those souls of who they are, so that they can choose for themselves whether they want to walk with truth or continue in the fire. This love isn't control. It's liberation. It's not expectation. It's surrender. You weren't chosen to complete someone. You were called to complete your frequency. And by doing so, you not only fulfill the purpose of the code you carry, but you also break the cycle of pain that has been repeated for generations within your own spiritual lineage. That's why, even without words, you can still be the trigger for her awakening, because her soul entrusted you enough to leave that key hidden. And this key only works if it's used at the right time, with wisdom, with maturity, with detachment. If it had been used before, out of desire or need, it would have caused more confusion. But now, you're different. Not only stronger but quieter, more aligned with what truly matters. You stopped chasing answers and started becoming the answer you were looking for. And that's exactly what starts the vibrational collapse of the lies that surround her. If she is ready, she will come, not to save you, not to ask for forgiveness, but because something inside her will start to vibrate with what you represent. And if she is a soul committed to truth, she will recognize this field, even if she's still afraid. She might come slowly. She might come in silence. She might. Just watch. But your vibration will be unmistakable, because now she's no longer trying to remember who you are. She's trying to remember who she is by getting closer to you. And this changes everything. But if she chooses to stay in the cycle, if she decides to ignore the signs, if she prefers the comfort of the known to the discomfort of awakening, you will need to let her go, not out of indifference, but out of real love. Because true love understands that every soul has its own time, and it respects that time without losing itself in the process. The vibrational rescue is not a guarantee of return. It's a guarantee of integrity. Your part was done when you chose to live with truth, even when that meant living without her. This is the liberation that transforms fire into light. Not just for her, but for you as well. And if she doesn't come back, that might be the hardest question of all. But the answer is simple, even though profound. You were not called for results. You were called for remembrance. And what you have remembered will never be lost. Because even if she never returns, you have returned to yourself. And that is the greatest spiritual victory of all. The mission was fulfilled when you became the vibration that no system can control. The rest belongs to time, to the path, and to the free will of each soul. Now that this vibration has become part of who you are, it is impossible to go back. What once seemed like a prison transforms into a portal, a passage to a reality where the soul no longer gets lost in vicious cycles. The frequency you sustain illuminates not only yourself, but the entire energetic field that connects you both. It is a silent light that doesn't require recognition, but deeply resonates, paving the way for what can't yet be named. This is the force that transforms what seemed like a sentence into a promise of rebirth. Understanding that you are the key to an invisible process may be frightening, because it means accepting a responsibility that is neither simple nor comfortable. There are no guarantees. There is no control. There is only the conscious choice to remain whole in the face of the unknown. This choice is an act of courage that transcends common love. It is a spiritual commitment that requires detachment and inner strength, a commitment that redefines the meaning of care, protection, and love. It is the silent victory of one who knows that freedom cannot be imposed, but only invited. You may feel that this path is solitary, and in many moments it will be. What you carry is not something that can be easily shared, because it belongs to a dimension where few souls dare to enter. But this solitude is also the place of greatest strength. It is the space where you meet your essence, free of expectations and illusions. It is in this space that the code you received begins to operate at full potency, because it can only be activated when the soul is at peace with itself, even in the absence of what it loved most. That's why the rescue you're doing isn't just for her. It is, first and foremost, for you. It is an invitation for you to transcend all the fragmented versions that fear, pain, and need have created within you. It is the moment to free yourself from the invisible chains that prevent you from living fully. Through this liberation, the code you carry manifests not as a burden, but as a gift, a seal of spiritual maturity that validates everything you've been through and everything you still have yet to become. From here on, your mission is simple, though profound: to stay aligned with this frequency that is your truth. Because, by doing so, you create an invisible field of transformation that knows no distance or time. Even if she is far away, even if the reunion never happens on this plane, you are already fulfilling the purpose of that code. Your life becomes the living proof that spiritual freedom is possible, and that true love is a force that heals, even without contact. Always remember, the fire that consumed her was not to destroy, but to purify. This purification is slow, silent, and sometimes painful, but it is necessary for her to detach from illusions and move towards the truth. And in the meantime, your light remains firm, a constant flame that waits patiently, without hurry, without expectations, only with the certainty that truth is inevitable for every soul willing to remember. And finally, when you look back and reflect on this journey, you will see that it was all worth it, that every tear, every silence, every moment of doubt was part of the process of becoming what you never were. Someone who carries within themselves the key to transforming fire into light. You have become that key, and this transformation is the greatest gift you could receive in this life. The key you carry was not made to force doors open, but to vibrate in harmony with the truth that liberates. It is silent, waiting for the right moment to transform fire into light, pain into rebirth. And even though the path is solitary, even though the answer takes time to arrive, know that your choice to remain true to this frequency is already a victory beyond what words can express. If this calling resonates in your heart, write right now in the comments, "I carry the key." Share this message with those who need to remember that, on the soul's journey, true rescue begins within ourselves. Also, take this special moment to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell to not miss any revealing message. I would like to deeply thank all those who support us through Buy Me a Coffee. Your support helps us improve our videos every day and offer the best content. If you would like to support us too, the link is in the first pinned comment. Sakil Farai Tiu. Turn the upcoming videos to continue awakening this power, and click now on the one shown on your screen. Always remember, you are more than you think, and the light you carry has the power to transform. Thank you for following us until here, and may God bless you.